This is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. We're on PlayStation 5, taking a look at this expansive, large-scale offering within the Assassin's Creed franchise. So what we're benefiting from here on PlayStation 5 is the fact that we have a dynamic 4K resolution scaling, which should be hitting closer to the native 4K than the PS4 Pro could. And we have HDR support. It is at 30 FPS, and we're starting off from the beginning of the game. So for context, the majority of my experience with Assassin's Creed Odyssey was on, well, basically Xbox, and then Series X after that, and now I'm checking out the PlayStation version in order to show it off. So I thought, hey, you know what, we'll just show off right from the beginning and talk about the overall experience, because, well, I have a lot of experience with this title. I mean, I played it quite a bit, and I'm sure other people have played way more than I have, considering you can literally just waste away tens or hundreds of hours of your life in this one. It's massive. It continues the new style of Assassin's Creed that was present from Origins. Origins was a big revamp of the Assassin's Creed brand, and it moved towards more of a RPG-like experience where you're kind of getting armor types and improving your character style and building up your character over time, and that's sort of the modern-esque Assassin's Creed that we're used to all the way up till still even Valhalla at this current point in time. This one was rather interesting though because it went big. It not only was it land-based, but it was also massive in terms of also the sea. So there was lots of sailing for those that are fans of, well, basically the sea-based elements of Assassin's Creed. So you like boats and stuff, you are covered. If you like land stuff, get ready to deal with a lot of boating too, but there are some pretty expansive, basically, boating type sequences that you can enjoy. It offers a lot of unique content for you to enjoy, and it's kind of brutal too. There's lots of DLC content that expands the experience further, and they kind of really lean into the mythological elements of this one. It's a lot less realism based, but it still has some elements of historical context. This takes place during a rather interesting war where basically these factions are quite going on, and we're kind of in regular gameplay now. You can see the design of the character looking quite stunning in terms of the visual style of it. It's just a really neat sort of experience combat-wise in regards to what you're doing. And then you can do different moves and stuff. And this is just like an opening just to show like the density of a battle scenario where there's all these characters fighting off. Now, it's a lot less stealth-based if you're into like the older Assassin's Creed titles, but there are elements of how you can move through a camp with an element of, a bit of stealth to it, which is kind of neat. It just gives you a lot of tools and abilities to kind of unleash upon enemies, and this is just like a really cool opening, so you could be like, oh, this is intense, kind of gets you psyched and everything for it, just so you can prepare for all the battles and that are coming up ahead. It's kind of cool in that regard, just in terms of what you can do. Oh, and I think of the big Spartan kick. So I would abuse that. There, you'd have the enemies kind of climbing up walls to go and attack you, and you could just like keep kicking them off the wall and do a ton of damage in that way. I remember just abusing really that system to the absolute max because I found it so effective. But yeah, it's just kind of an intense opening where you're like, oh, feeling the fighting of the game. Well, the intensity and the action, because you get all of these unique abilities, and you feel really highly powered and ready to sort of battle. And I guess we're just sort of like, kind of almost just getting introduced to some of the mechanics gameplay-wise is the point of this. Mostly it's just being like, oh, okay, here's how you fight, and here's the abilities you have, and you develop your own skill sets as time goes by, obviously, with those RPG mechanics that I mentioned. You pick up all these different things, and, you kind of tune your character to a degree so that you're more set up for the types of battles you like to do. But our main goal here seems to be to kill the crown guys, am I right? So it's bit of a mythological tale take on the whole war between Athens and Sparta. You're kind of like picking and choosing sides to a degree, I guess you could say, just in regards to some of the mission elements of the story. You're also able to introduce, well, it introduces the concept of picking like a male or female character to be like your lead. And I know lots of people have different preferences for who they kind of find themselves playing as. And I think some people, I don't know how they'd find the time, but go back and try the other perspective just so they can see. Because it's the same, really, story, but it kind of is impacted to a degree based on who you choose. with how things sort of develop over time. So you kind of get to this point where you're doing like a bit of a cutting the heads off of a snake, as to say, to keep things like non-spoilers, because that was actually part of the review thing for this one way back in the day. Was you weren't supposed to talk about the whole system, or I think there's something you weren't supposed to spoil elements of what that system was. But it's an important part of what the game is, because the end game is kind of based on this element of, you know, kind of hunting individuals, as to say, and that part of it felt a little grindy to me because you have to go around just like hunting all these guys. Ugh, okay, so that should be right back on track. So what happened was the game actually crashed at that particular moment, which was kind of interesting, and it removed my initial recording. So hopefully the edit isn't so glaring there, but yeah, I was a little surprised by that. I guess I gotta dodge a little bit more efficiently. But yeah, like I was saying, the game really is quite interesting and very, very expansive and well done. It offers way too much to do quite as well, which, you know, for some people might be a little bit too much. That's mostly the complaints I hear about this one, is the fact that it was so ambitious that it's almost too wildly large, if that makes sense. It just goes sort of on and on as well, with so many different things you can do, intense, sort of some cinematic moments, but for the most part it is sort of going out and about in the world and making your way and discovering various lands and moving through different land masses. Like the landmass you go through is just colossal. It is insanely big, overly ambitious to some degree, some might say. And then the DLC kind of adds to that as well in so many interesting ways. It really is just a great time. Something that does have a little bit of a challenge to it as well, as you're kind of scaling up the levels. And then, like with all the Assassin's Creed games, I love the level of detail and fidelity within the environment itself. You know, you see these huge worlds, but they also have a high level of detail to them. And you go through the different towns, the different places, the different buildings, the different types of architecture that you see along the way. You know, there's people doing their thing. There is different kind of individuals living, you know what I mean? That's mostly what I'm trying to get across. So it feels like a thriving landscape of people living their lives, and, you know, whether they're traders or people dealing with animals or guards or anything like that. You know, there is a lot of different, well, basically places you can go, things you can see, and things you can do within these places. There's also all these dynamic like quest options and different missions and different challenges and like people created challenges, and, you know, and then we've also got the modern-esque story as well, kind of being a part of it. To a minor degree, it's really not like a huge thing in it, but it just kind of sets the stakes, I guess you could say, in regards to understanding how this fits into the modern storyline that I'm sure so many people are still well developed and into. But the game itself, really, really great if you're into this kind of Assassin's Creed. If you're, like I was saying earlier, if you're into the sailing, there is a ton of boat opportunities and things you can do in that regard. I'm not as huge into that part of the Assassin's Creed games. I like to do more of like the, you know, kind of running around on foot or grabbing a horse pal, you know, stuff like that. Those are more my types of things. But for those that love the sailing, it's just so in depth. There's so many things you can do in it. It really is quite wild what you're able to experience. This is, again, is just kind of the opening and sort of setting the stage for kind of characters. Guided mode, exploration, your approach style, uncover targets, guided. Yeah, I do that style. I'm lazy, what can I say? And then, of course, the DLC and stuff goes way beyond the elements and mechanics that you would even be used to. Just, you know, not changing the formula too much, but just adding so much to the game. Actually, I don't think they've really done anything like that in the Assassin's Creed titles previously, just in regards to how many kind of extra modules and things you could jump into and worlds you could explore with an element of like Atlantis and that, if you're into that sort of thing. It's really quite cool. So this, again, the modern era type setup, the research in that. This is just to kind of give a confinement to the game in regards to still connecting it to that modern era of, you know, Assassin's Creed, because they had that back in the original games, and people wanted less and less of it. So now it's kind of just like a framing method for giving you context into regards to like what's happening and what you're doing. This stuff is so uninteresting. You know, actually, I think. Oh no, here we go. So this is the choices. Lexios. I'm gonna do Cassandra because I did Alexios last time on one of my primary Series X saves. So I'm gonna give her tale kind of a whirl and see how that is. Because again, it's very similar. Like I've read into the parts of the dynamics or the dynamics of the two characters. Very much the same sort of thing as you're going through it. It just one or two things kind of like flop up a bit, which you can tell from either perspective of what you're playing. You're like, oh, they would have went with this direction at a certain point in time. It's not like it's a branching, expansive narrative based on what gender you're playing as. It really doesn't impact the story to really any high meaningful way. But I have heard that a lot of individuals really like Cassandra's story elements, just in regards to like the acting and the performance of her role was really well done. So that's kind of neat. So we kind of went through the mentionings of that, the past, the present day, and now we're jumping into, you know, kind of the young child growing thing. And this is a big opening, so you can see really the scale and the visuals of the game in more of an impressive sight and way. Because this is the open landscape. Like I said many times, and I said this on my other coverage of the game on other platforms, this thing is damn big. You can travel forever. It's not dense. Like if you're looking at Assassin's Creed titles from this era, Unity was a very dense game with very intense crowds. I'd say we still have that kind of scope, but it's much more open and broadened outwards. Like even compared to Origins, this game feels like so bloated and full compared to that one in terms of like just how massively big this is. And it's interesting to hear the different thoughts, because I quite like Origins for the setting, and I found this setting to be kind of lovely. It's nice and stuff, but it's a little more of a bland setting, if that makes sense. I know that sounds awful, but it's very sort of like there's not as much of a change up in like the scenery and that as you go through it, and that's how they were able to probably scale it as they were. It's still quite lovely. It's still got some really good looking scenes to it. I mean, I think this looks quite gorgeous and stunning. I mean, visually, like model wise and stuff, it's really, really good. And then I can't wait till we get to the regular movements of our world as we prepare to battle Cyclops. And this is also, again, where they move more from a full natural setting. Oh, big punch. Ooh, damn. And they add there's mythical things you can come across throughout the world, which, you know, kind of interesting. Come on, I know about the lock-on system. It also, I think, allowed you to kind of deal with larger groups, I think, a little bit more effectively than the previous titles did. You know, you're just able to munch through guys a lot faster, and that's sort of the system that they were going for in later and later games. Was less about more meaningful one-on-ones and more about large-scale conflicts and scenarios that you would go in and you would fight groups of individuals. Did she straight up kill those guys? Really weak. Oh, that's funny.
Can't keep doing this.
It's true. Oh, it's the eagle friend.
Thanks for the warning.
But like I was saying, with those RPG mechanics, you are getting some bits of like armor and stuff, and you are improving skills and being ambitious in regards to, you know, your way that you're making yourself through the world here, which I think is kind of interesting. The Cyclops again. He never learns his lesson, does he? He's always out for conflict and causing problems.
Of course. Help yourself. Hungry to eat us?
Oh, the bird's so nice. It ate that very polygon-esque type of fruit.
Maybe you could ask him for me. I'll try to put in a good word for you.
Well, that's nice of you.
Finally. So, what are you doing here? Oh, I almost forgot. Marcos is looking for you. What does that weasel want now? Don't know. He wants you to meet him at his new house. On his vineyard. What? A vineyard? Alaka. It's on the road to Sami. He says wine will make him rich. Well, I guess I owe Marcos a little.
And now we should be getting on to the regular exploration and discovery of the landmass.
I'll go tell Marcos you're coming.
Oh, she's got a little figurine. Oh, these guys aren't dead? I thought I killed them. Yeah. Choices, blah, blah, blah.
You made a mistake coming here.
Now they're dead. God, she is viciously intense. But yeah, so the traditional Assassin's Creed elements, you can see climbing and everything like that are back, but there's not a lot of opportunity for verticality in regards to your movement throughout the world. It's more of like a flatter landscape. There are some like hill-based places, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Axe-based things. Oh yeah, and then the skill level points, you improve your character. Let's go and do our inventory. Should we put on the classic Assassin's Creed Legendary Ezio's? I don't remember having this gear on my other platform. I feel like they hooked me up with an even nicer code this time than I got on the original one. What is this? Oh, wow. Somebody's ready to hunt. Oh, she's looking good. Yeah. Wow, that's quite a fashion statement. Oh my. We got a bag. Quest items. Broken bow. Okay. Woo! Somebody's looking like a legendary assassin. Damn, I gotta say, that is one cool looking outfit. Woo! Sleek. Well, it's an upgrade. But yeah, now we're in the open world. It looks really good, though. It really does hold up quite well. And like I said, you know, a lot of this horseback, because you got to travel great distances. This opening island is just a small thing. It just introduces you to the concepts of what you're doing in the world. And then once you get out there, you grab a horse, you call your horse, you whistle to it, and you kind of roam around the countryside and stuff. And you can call Icarus to kind of scout things out for you a bit too if you want. And then you go to your quests a little bit easier, which is nice. But yeah, it's still a really good looking game. I mean, it definitely uses its environment to its advantage, that's for sure. Little bits of verticality, but when I was saying verticality earlier, it was less about the sense of like, sort of hills and mountains, because there are a lot of those ranges in this environment. It was more the element of the fact that you're not doing like building scaling like you used to. But here's the map, and like I said, it's just ridiculously large, and there's so much sea for those that want to do all the sea crap. You go to all these different places and fight in these epic wars along all the different terrains, and they may not seem big, but they're really huge, like just ludicrously large. It really goes on forever. I'm sure whoever has the job of eventually doing like a remaster or an upgrade of this game is probably just going to have their work cut out for them in regards to how many different things they're going to have to deal with in scaling this one. Because she's big, like, just, you can literally like venture out into some just crazy places. And as I said earlier, you can see right now with all the different town people out doing their things, living their lives, you can see that it feels full, it feels lively, it feels like they're doing activities, and that's kind of a cool dynamic. At least I think so.
I keep telling you, you can't do that.
Why? It's my farm. I can plant what I want.
The grapes will die here. All of them.
You have to forget what you know about the past, my friend. Together we will revolutionize winemaking. Believe me, you will look back on this day. Cassandra, thank the gods. Phoebe found you in town. I can still hear you. I was worried sick. The Cyclops sent his scum to find you. I think they mean you harm.
Yeah, I killed
She
him.
would have told me that before they hit me. But that's beside the point. You bought a vineyard, Marcos? A vineyard?
Why not? I like wine, you like wine, everybody likes wine. Everybody buys wine. Why not from me?
Because you don't know how to grow grapes or make wine?
I'm a fast learner. You grow grapes on the vine, then you get some wine.
Uh-huh.
Simple, is it?
You know me better than to think I don't have a plan. Marcos always has a plan.
All right. Then do you have the money you owe me?
Do I have the money I owe you? Of course, of course. Well, no, not at the moment.
Then get it.
Instantly, my friend, instantly. But maybe you should do that. There is a merchant in Sami. I'm not very good at these things, as you know.
You want me to collect my own debt?
It's just waiting for you in Sami, my friend.
Who's the merchant?
Duris. You know Duris. He's very nice.
Duris? How stupid can you get? Stop giving him money.
He always pays me back.
After I threaten him.
Exactly. Everybody benefits. Duris gets his money, I get my interest, and you have work. Kefalonia is wonderful, is it not?
He'd better have my money, Marcos. I'd hate to have to sell our vineyard.
Of course he will. Oh, after there's another matter I want to discuss with you. After.
Fine, but I'm taking a horse. It's too hot and too long a walk to go on foot.
But
Think of it as interest, Marcos. Everybody benefits.
of course, my friend. You shall have your pick.
And this is where I get to pick my horse. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, I can't remember what I picked last time, but it was a very noble steed.
I've made my choice.
Which one will it be?
I'll take the one in the middle.
Fine choice. But this particular breed has a few quirks that you might not be aware of. I wouldn't want you to take an unworthy horse.
This is the one I want.
Are you sure? Because
I'm sure, Marcos.
everybody benefits, especially you. You've chosen the great Phobos. He's never let me down.
Phobos.
Remember, meet me at the temple in Sami when you have your money from Duris. Ah, Efterpi. There's plenty of wine left to buy. Don't fret.
Not now, you fool. Phoebe's been taken.
By who?
Thugs of the Cyclops. Who else? Snatched her right off the main road.
Tell me where they went.
In the direction of Itimena Beach.
The beach? Can she swim?
I'll get her.
Yes, go. But don't forget about dear Duris, Cassandra.
And now we've got the horse. But yeah, this is also an important part of the game I wanted to showcase was the horse movement, so you can kind of see that off in action. But I think I've talked about mostly, you know, what the scale and the adventure of the game is like. There's so many quests and adventures and things you can go on and things you can do and places you can see, and you know, the world really is open for you to kind of explore and well, basically just discover all sorts of things, and it's really, really big, and this is only just a small slice of it. But it was a good portion to kind of show you how it's running, how it's looking, and getting an idea of just how it is on the platform, and it's quite wonderful here. It seems to be proficiently running well. I mean, we did have that odd crash right there off the beginning there, but it is what it is. And like I said, a little less of a focus on the traditional elements of the Creed and more towards the elements of an RPG-esque and light RPG light experience with this one. It really did expand things in a lot of interesting ways, and then there's, you know, the kind of idea where it's still a little bit focused on stealth, but let's be real here, it's a much more combative experience. How could you not assassinate in this gorgeous outfit? Look at this thing. I do not remember having this on my game. That is for sure. I assassinate everyone equally.
Get Phoebe out of here. Cassandra, I'm here.
I will free her after I take this loot from this chest. Thank you very much. I shall free you, prisoner.
Are you all right?
It wasn't so bad. Last time they put a cloth in my mouth so I'd stop biting.
Anyways, after this part, that's Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Since my parents died, I'm okay. I've got you, and you've got me and Marcos. We're your family, right?
Right.
You worry too much.
You don't worry enough.
We'll be alright if we watch out for each other. Which reminds me, the thug said you should watch your back.
What they say?
They said the Cyclops put a big bounty on you. Talos the Stonefist wants you dead.
Talos the mercenary? Am I ever not in trouble?
Better get him before he gets you. I hear he's really mean. I'll find my way back to town. Here!
Talos the Stonefist? That's just what I need today. Another broken nose. I'm going to have to take care of that.